Hi, everyone, and welcome back. What an inspiring way to start today's summit with this video about conscious techies and the heart that it takes to try to make an impact in this world. I'm really excited about this next panel. We're having representatives from companies that are empowering agri-tech and sustainable food tech in the Middle East, and I can't wait to hear from them. This panel will be moderated by Mohamed Sameh. He's an economist and international consultant, and I'll leave him to introduce the other speakers. So take it away, Mohamed.
Thank you so much, Melodie, and good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. And it's wonderful to be here together with these wonderful ladies. It's a bit intimidating and only gentlemen on board, but it's a women-led initiative. It's a women-led investment. It's a women-driven financial instrument, as we would say now. It's awesome. So with us today, we have Dana Global. It will be represented by Shirley, Shahar, and Zada, and Astro Fund from the Israeli Stock Exchange. We have was at Dganit Vered. So, ladies, who would like to start?
Go ahead, Zada.
Okay, great. So, hi, Mohamed. Thank you for inviting us. Actually, I can speak a bit about Dana and our impact that we are trying to drive in the region. Dana Global or Dana Accelerator is a women-led startups accelerator in the realms of desert tech, where we accelerate women co-founders that has startups in agri-tech, food security, water technology, and renewable energy from all over the region who are looking to scale up in the region. Usually we see startups who are scaling up in the US as a big market to scale up there. But since we are starting and establishing startups here from the region, so why we don't benefit the region where there is a huge need, especially in these areas. We work very tailor-made with the startups. It has to be at least one woman co-founder in the startup. And we help them POCing and feasibility testing, BizDev in the MENA region, and a lot of hands-on work with the startups, helping them with the legal establishment in the UAE as a gateway to the region. I will give it to Shirley to talk more about the agri-tech and food security areas where she's the responsible on the startups and helping them with having the much less mistakes with much more success. Go ahead, Shirley.
Thank you, Zada. So this is really exciting to be here, and we are very proud that we can actually present Dana and the startups that we accelerate. At the moment, in the cohort, we have 6 startups from all over the region. We have startups that are dealing with a solar system, actually building a beautiful and new AI layer for the solar system they are already implemented. This came out of the need because they implemented the solar system all over the region, in Gaza, in Riyadh, and in other places. And they understood that they needed AI and technologies that are much more developed in order to make a change. We work with partners such as Microsoft for Startups and Amazon. And we know that we are able to give the startups the best of all worlds with our partners that we work with. We also have 3 startups that are dealing with agri-tech and one that is more in the food waste industry and the circular economy. Dana has a very important pillar at its vision, and it's of course the SDGs and the impact strategies. And for us, it's part of the business. We don't see impact or SDG only as a way to do good to the world, even though it's super important. We also see it as a business model that is sustainable, and we try to integrate business and impact strategies in the same way for our startups. strategies that are made with metrics and algorithm and can show revenues and business plan to our investors and the startup investors. I can talk for hours about my about the startups, but I think it wouldn't be too polite, and I would like to give Dganit some of the stage.
Okay, like it's just like sat.
Exactly.
Dganit, the floor is all yours, and Shirley, we will come back to you in a minute, please.
Thanks. Hi everyone, I'm Dganit. I'm the CEO of Smart Agro. It's a limited partnership out of the Israeli Stock Exchange. We exist for a bit over a year now and already have 4 portfolio companies. I personally made a move from the high-tech industry into the agri-tech industry and realized that the gap to solve big problems in the agri-tech arena needs a lot of energy, solution, and money. And in the last 3 years, I'm in investments in that field. I believe that if we don't do something dramatic and very intensive to change the course of things, the climate change is going to become a disaster zone for everyone. We already see the beginning of that, but if we don't do something very proactive to make sure we can feed the people in the world, it's that basic, feeding people. We're going to have bigger problems on our hands. So for us, we're looking at problems like, for example, pollination, because we're killing bees pretty efficiently and they will not survive without our help. So anything to do with pollination, either supporting the bees or finding replacement to bees. Labor shortage. People are moving to the cities. Very hard to work in agriculture. Desert, similar to Dana, we need to find solutions to growing things in desert as the temperatures go up, and water is going to be short pretty soon. And we also see more and more problems around the sustainability and the ability of the soil to keep its fertility. So there is really a variety of problems to take care of, and that's what we do. We look for startups at the growth stage, we invest in them, we mentor them, we help them succeed in the go-to-market, in the sales, in building the teams, in making the technology robust, and hopefully together with them solve big problems. And when you solve big problems, you make a lot of money. So this is a win-win for our investors.
This is brilliant. Dganit. Thank you so much. And there are very important themes on the table today. And I would start from the one that just Dganit mentioned. Hopefully with those companies, we will solve big problems. And when we solve big problems that are even as basic as feeding people, we make a lot of money. So that's a very interesting investment, like a summary of the entire thing. So we have the investment side, feeding people, technology needs, regional collaboration, and investment coming out of the high tech, moving to the most important thing, water, agriculture. But you also mentioned pollination, which is like, I guess for those who are listening to us, it might not be as clear as the others, right? And that we are killing bees. So we will come back to the bees in a second, because it's very important supply chain. And it's just like, it reminds me of one of my friends in Spain, and he had a project in bees, and it was being joked off. Like, now I guess we will discuss it in a different context. Yeah. Let me go back to Shirley, who was like, I can talk for hours, but Dana is actually new to the field, while Astrofund is, out of the stock exchange in Israel. And combining this was working between Abu Dhabi, Israel, but you also mentioned Gaza, and that you installed solar panels there. Yeah. So with which one of these would you like to start? The newly established Dana?
I just want to start with the regional collaboration. I think it's essential to the market. I think it's essential to the startups. I think it's essential for the economy of the fresh produce. And for us, it really doesn't matter where the technology comes from, as long as it's sustainable, as long as it really solves the problem, as long as it has its technologies, IPs or technologies advantage, and we can scale it up. So it really being working with startups in Gaza or in Abu Dhabi or in Israel or anywhere else in the region, in the MENA region, it really makes a point of how the region can really be better and be more and show more economic revenues with these technologies. I think that working in Abu Dhabi is a good strategy for the Accelerator, but also for other startups in the region, because Abu Dhabi, Emirates, it really is a getaway, as Zada said, to the MENA region. And we see Egypt, Morocco, Bahrain, other countries in the region really can adapt and change the way that maybe traditional agri-tech and food tech work into more modern and technology that actually help for the fresh produce, help the market, and help, of course, the economy. So anything and anywhere, as long as it can adopt good technologies and, of course, promote our values. We keep reminding ourselves and the others that work with us that we think women are leaders for this, are leaders for the change, and we think that diversity and working together is the most important value that we can bring into the region.
Absolutely. Like Dganit, like we have Shirley and Zada here saying that they're working with companies and practically you have the money. So where is the problem?
So first of all, there's not enough money. But I think that money starts moving into the climate change, and we call it the planet technology arena in the last 2 years. Companies and big money identify this gap and understand how they can make money out of, for example, carbon trading and things like that. Okay, so the way I see it, part of the globalization is starting to utilize solutions developed in one place in another place. I'll give an example from our region, okay? Suplant is one of our portfolio companies. They're doing precision irrigation, meaning they have sensors on the plant, in the soil, weather information, and they can give the farmer a recommendation saying exactly how much water and when they need to irrigate. And the irrigation can be drip irrigation, flood irrigation, and whatever. They're starting now to do collaborations in the Emirates. They're starting sales in Morocco. And the reason is dates. In dates, you can, with this kind of a system, you can save up to 50% of the water usage, and the quality of the fruit are getting higher because you don't over irrigate or under irrigate. The plant gets exactly what it needs. So that also implies higher yield. We saw the results and they were pretty amazing. And this is a place where, you can develop a technology in one place and then the assimilation can happen worldwide. And I think that when you start inside our region, implement solutions that one develop for, the world, but it impacts the region mostly, I think those are the bridges for peace that we can generate as well.
Absolutely. That makes me just question, honestly, Dganit, that many inventions and many innovations, at least the people behind the innovation themselves, having a more academic background, technical background, sometimes they find themselves in a labyrinth of contractual arrangements that they need to, sign here and there, and they have no clue where to go. And then when they discuss with the retail or with the farmers, the entry is very difficult. What would you tell these?
So this is where, VCs can come and help, because today VCs don't just come with the money, they come with expertise. And I have a vast corporate expertise and R&D expertise, and I know if I don't know how to do something like sign contracts with farmers, I can connect them to the right people to do that properly, because I have the network. So that's part of what VCs now, give to the portfolio companies. We come with the whole ability to help them, generate the market traction, the pricing. How do you price it? Farmers' willingness to pay is relatively low. How do you prove in a very, very accurate way what's in it for them? Otherwise, they will not adopt the technology. Things like that. So I think that you are right. Some of the CEOs are scientists. At some point of the growth, some of the CEOs can acquire those skills, and some need to move out into the CTO position and get a professional CEO in. We see these things happen in companies. It's really a case-by-case situation.
Of course. And now,
if I can interrupt, I think one of the best options to collaborate between VC startups and accelerators like Dana is the ability to each one of them to add actually something to the ecosystem. And for Dana, for example, we are emphasizing some of our practical help with our beta sites. We have beta sites in the south of Israel. We are going to have another one in Abu Dhabi, hopefully in Cairo next year. And our idea is to make sure that the POCs and feasibility tests are being done in the very early stage of the startups. So we try not to lose any resources for the startups. We know that time and money are the most valuable resources for them. And as soon as we bring them to the land and to the clients, which can be the farmers, the corporates, whoever is needed on the table, we can actually save a lot of time and money and resources for them. So in our beta sites, we actually take the product in every stage that it stays in, and we try to feed back the startups and to pivot as soon as possible if needed, or to go ahead with the success if it is so. And I think the ability to collaborate with VCs like Dganit and others, and to manage to bring this new method to the ecosystem will help the technologies and the verticals to grow really fast, and to bring, of course, more money to the.
You added the women layer. Like I heard you well at the beginning saying, or I think Zada mentioned this. Zada, you mentioned that on the board of the companies that receives the support from Dana, there must be a lady at least, right?
Yeah, it must has at least one co-founder, woman co-founder. I wanted also to add that I'm not sure about the statistics today, but it's about in the US, 7% of women get funded from all startups. Like it's a huge glass ceiling between women-led startups and investment opportunities, because women, it's a whole different world for women to ask for money, but also most of the VCs are men, and usually we use to invest or to trust in someone who is like us. Like an Arab will probably invest more in Arab than in Chinese. So as a man, it's probably more trustworthy for them to invest in men. And what we are trying to do is also to change these statistics by helping women also to know how to ask for money, but secondly also to connect them to the network of believers in women and women co-founders that they are interested in empowering women. And this is part of the SDGs, where if we are still don't have this kind of network to connect women-led startups with the right VCs who are interested to empower women, who are interested to empower the region, the women in the region, So we are not really doing a change. But if we are really connecting and creating this kind of network where we have a network of VCs from the Middle East, from the US, from UK, from Europe, hopefully we will get to more and more places where we can really get the women to the right VCs, where they are really interested to make this change. And like it's hard to break this glass ceiling today, but I can see the change because you can feel the power of women who are trying to make to close this gap. But also I can see more and more men are joining us in this journey, and this is what is the most important thing in the region, to include men. We need more women, because for women we already understand we have a glass ceiling, we need to break it. Yeah, so Mohamed, we need more people like you and more VCs from the region who trust women, who trust that until today the region didn't see women, enough women leaders. The region didn't see enough women innovators. It's not because there is no women leaders or no women innovators, but because there was no place or home for this woman to bring up their creativity and to bring up their leadership. And that's why we need more women who believes in our journey, and more men who will really support and believe in women co-founders that they can make a change.
Zada, do you reckon women have a different way of doing business than men in general?
Yeah, I can say, not because it's me, because it's statistics. Women can make more revenue in women co-founders and startups can make 1.6 more money than men, more revenues than men. Because until the woman, like, you can see it as a very simple formula. When you get something easily, it's like you feel like you put it less effort, and then you don't give your 100% utilization of your power. But women, until they get the funding, until they get to that point, it's like so much hard for them. So it gives them a drive to make more profits and to show and prove the opposite. And that's why, like, if someone tells you you can't, you want to prove it, so you will do it better than him. And that's how, like, I see the formula. But I have to say that diverse teams where they have men and women working together, you have more profit than only women or only men, because the creativity increase, and the power of diversity is very important in business. And not only in business, like in everything in life. If you want to create new things, diversity can give you different mindsets and a different point of views, where you can see the gaps and where you can see where's the real problems and not the symptoms.
That's beautiful. Dganit, what happens when you enter to, like, a company is trying to promote itself to you, to invest, to support, and you are talking with the co-founders and they are 4 or 6 people and they're all men? How does it feel, actually?
So because most of the startups are men-led and there are not that many women in agriculture startups. There are more in food, by the way, but in agri, there are not. So this is pretty much the standard of what I see. I personally don't have a problem with that. We do prefer diverse teams. And usually when they go to hire, we ask them to look for female candidates as well. But I think that there is also a barrier from the women's side. Women don't always like taking risks. Going into startups is hard for them because it means a lot of hours, and you have sometimes, you have a family. So whose career is leading in the house, and it's harder for women. At least in Israel, most of the high-tech startups will be men-led. In agri-tech, it's small percent of the women leading. Now, I try to work with them, and I think a lot of them are doing amazing things. But I agree that when a woman steps into the management team, the dynamic changes and the team becomes more efficient.
Of course. It's he also said that there is a barrier for entry also from the women's side, and they don't like to take risks. That's a big word, and I leave it for Zada and Shirley. Clearly, the three ladies on the panel are taking a lot of risks. But, it reminds me of an expression of a friend of mine, Firas. He's from Syria, and he's an attorney providing investment advice, legal advice for companies in Ukraine. And he said that at the end, startup is a romantic notion. Most of the startups fail. So it takes serious, not only romance, but courage, which of course no one, it's not gender specific, but, to put yourself in such a boat and sail with not knowing how it will end. Do you think this is actually what you have been seeing, Dganit?
I personally was a CEO of a startup and unfortunately had to close it, so I know how bad it feels. And I think that this is part of the life of a startup. I know mostly the Israeli ecosystem, and the Israeli ecosystem likes to take risks. You will find there are like 400 companies and startups doing agri-tech in Israel. For the size of the population, this is huge. And I think that what I see in people that moving into agri-tech and food tech is the understanding of feeding the world. That it goes behind I'm gonna manage a startup. It goes with the feeling that I need to do something to contribute to the world. Now, agri-tech is harder because you're depending on the seasons of the year, and some of your experiments will be failing because of the weather problems. And it's harder to get money than cyber and gaming. So whoever goes into the food and ag must have a stronger resilience than the other startup managers and founders.
How many companies are you supporting now, Dganit, in this, are part of your portfolio, I mean?
4 companies in my portfolio right now, but the total I invested in 7 companies.
In 7 companies. Because, we are hosted actually by here today on Vested Summit, which is powered by Scale Up Venture in Egypt. And they have at least one of that I remember very well, Kaitozan, which is a very interesting Egyptian company, and they are recycling the waste of shrimps to produce a very high fertilizer for the land. And before we start, we were talking about the fresh food production in the Middle East and North Africa and exports to Europe, and actually that will take also us to the quality of the water used, because you talked about the quantity of the water used. You mentioned drippers that are providing exactly what the plant needs, but perhaps also the quality of the water is very important, because at the end of the story, that's the quality of the product is needed when it is exported or consumed, right?
Right.
But now, I loved when Zada also said, Arabs will invest in will invest more in Arab companies than Chinese, but then it's working between Israel, Abu Dhabi, hopefully next year, Egypt with Dana. Would these 4 companies, Dganit, for example, find opportunity also in this regional cooperation? Do you think so?
Some of them will, some of them are not relevant. For example, precision irrigation is extremely relevant. Another big problem that currently exists in the food supply chain is waste. And FruitSpec, one of our recent portfolio companies, is helping realizing exactly how to optimize the supply chain. So I think that the waste, whatever you leave in the field, when you transport, getting spoiled, sometimes being rejected by the retailer and so on. Sometimes the supply chain is very long. Solutions to these problems are being provided by one of the companies, and I can tell you I'm looking for additional solutions because I think this is another big problem. And the pollination, bees are having difficulties everywhere. One of our portfolio companies, which is Aruga, is developing a robot, already developed, started sales, that pollinate using air tomatoes in greenhouses. And that problem, becomes more and more severe over the years. Bees will not get out of their hives if it's too hot or there's not enough light. And there are pests that kill beehives in a pretty high rate. So those things are being dealt with the Aruga. And the fourth one is a breeding company generating seeds and looking for traits using CRISPR technology. So this is like a biotechnology at the highest. And the part of the traits they're looking for is, for example, drought resistance, things like that. And this can be relevant for the region, but this is a much, much longer term. This is not something that will happen in the next couple of years. This is 10 years away, at least this company.
Pollination is a serious issue, really. But you mentioned also waste. And waste is the amount of waste that it's madness, really. And Shirley, Zada, whenever you are touching on any of these topics in the Middle East and North Africa, do you still, like, when you say we have a beta in Israel, when you mention the word Israel, do you feel a certain reaction from your audience?
So like from the startup side, if you find a woman founder from the region, usually they are afraid for their reputation more than from like us or being Israeli. They are more afraid from how the surrounding will accept them as working with Israeli. And I can understand that, but what is special about our team is that we are diverse: American Jewish, Israeli Jewish, and me, the Arab here in the team. But also we are a Abu Dhabi-based company, so that makes it much easier, and that's why Shirley mentioned it was like a strategical step for us to build our company in Abu Dhabi. So any startup who will work with us in the region, he or she, they are protected from being like under the radar of working with Israelis or working with Israeli company. But because our goal is to help the startups, not to destroy them and destroy their reputation. So we help them by saving them also from being like whatever the surrounded can call them. And the proof of that we have a startup from Gaza, we have a startup, a Palestinian refugee who is based in the UAE. So we have Arabs who knows the situation, but they see the change by working with a diverse team of women who want to support women. And we are Abu Dhabi-based company. So actually, we have a startup that we wanted to make for them like their POC here in Israel. It was like so close to happen, but because like it's difficult, we thought about having another beta site in the UAE, so the startups don't have to come to Israel physically; they can do it there. So you just need to be smart to save the startups from being attacked, and that's it.
And also, if I may interrupt again, yes. The main focus is on business. Dana is definitely professional and business oriented initiative. So we try to take the best of all worlds, and the best doesn't have a limit or border or anything like that. So if the technology is somewhere and the beta site is somewhere else, it doesn't matter. As long as we give the startup the best possibilities to grow and to accelerate as fast and as good as possible. So being a regional initiative for our startups and for the startup that wants to join Dana definitely is an advantage. And also, I think it's an advantage for the investors because you can invest in part of the initiative. You can invest in the startup, you can invest in the accelerator itself, you can say it's up to you, and you have a variety of options. So we never think of ourselves as something that has limitation because of our regional collaboration.
It would never be a limitation because of
the opposite.
Regional belonging. Like Shirley, how far would you agree with this phrase then? In the first edition of Visit Summit, or perhaps maybe the second, I wouldn't recall now, in an intervention by Mark Nelson, and at that time I remember he was the director of the Stanford Business Lab for Peace, and he said, if I succeed to convince you by the end of the speech not to establish an NGO, but to establish a business, because business is what put people together, and that's how we make peace. How far would you agree with this phrase?
Is there more than 100% to agree? I'm 100% with him. I think it's necessary, and we see the impact strategies that are now popular and showing their opportunities. It's never NGO, it's never nonprofit, it's never stand by itself. If the organization, even the one that has the most impactful options, doesn't have a strong and sustainable financial and business opportunities, I don't believe in it. And I also have to say that I don't believe in the other option. An organization that doesn't have the soul, a startup that doesn't have anything else but the money or the financial success, it might be successful, but not with us in Ghana. So we are looking for the golden path. And the golden path is where you can succeed in both ways and you know how to mix both opportunities into the big and hopefully better planet. Huh?
Shirley,
This is why we are all here today.
What was the words of Arik Einstein's song, Change the World?
Yeah, you and me will change the world, Mohamed. Let's go for that.
Shirley, that's wonderful. It's really through working together that we can build base. And thank you so much, Dganit, for joining us today. Zada, Shirley,
Thank you.
It was wonderful having you, and Shalom v'Ahavan. Let's work together and change this world.
Thank you so much, Mohamed.
Thank you
Have a
very
great
much.
day. Thank you. You're muted, Melodie.
Sorry. Thanks, everyone. What an inspiring conversation that was. It's great to hear about the importance of supporting diversity in the startup ecosystem and about the specificities of food tech and agri-tech startups and the challenges that they face. So it was really great to hear from you. Thank you so much. Everyone, stay tuned. We're coming back in a few minutes with an investment success story. So come back.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melodie.